Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me as usual, Alistair McKenzie. Alistair, the first goal of the season, it's closed. Lazio's out of the Europa League unfortunately, and we are only on 20th of February. Not a very good start, I would say.
Well, it's longer than Atalanta and Milan lasted. Yeah, it's funny the way you phrased that. First goal of the season, because the one thing we definitely needed tonight was goals, and the one thing we're desperately short of at the moment is goals, and that's really the main problem here. It is a big disappointment, but a lot of us weren't really expecting to get through this tie in the first place. So maybe that makes it slightly less disappointing than it would have been otherwise. But it's a bit annoying, I think, given the way these ties have gone, because you can't help but feel that it was kind of there for the taking, really.
Yeah, especially because in the last couple of days I've been studying a little bit Seville, and you can see that this is not an amazing team. It's not an impossible opponent to play against. Yeah, they won the Europa League 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. They have some very good players, especially attacking, but the defense is weak. And in the last 5 games, they won only once against Lazio. They lose 6-1 against Barcelona. Last Sunday, they lose 3-0 against Valencia. So it's not a great team, and you can feel it. Lazio didn't play that bad and created a lot of chances, especially in the second half. But as you were saying, we needed goals, and we weren't able to do it today. We missed so many chances.
Yeah, and we had a wee chat about that a couple of episodes ago. I think someone had asked about the fact that we were outperforming XG last season and now massively underperforming against the XG this year. And that's a real problem because, the initial thing that people usually go to is the Ciro Immobile factor, and if he's not scoring, then Lazio struggle. And I think that's definitely one consideration to make, because Immobile's form really hasn't been that good for a while, and he hasn't been scoring many goals since, probably back in kind of start of December, his last good run of form probably. I think that just throughout the pitch, it goes beyond Immobile. I think that the problem is that these chances, like you say, have been created. They're just not being put away for one reason or another. And yet moments like tonight, where our best chance of the game has somehow fallen to our centre-back, Francesco Acerbi, and you just wonder if someone else had been in that position, if that would have been a turning point. And the game tonight particularly, the first leg as well, but I think tonight even more so, there were several occasions that if the margins had been slightly more in our favour, then the entire game could have changed, and it just didn't happen.
I thought the chance Ciro Immobile missed in the second half when he tried to lob the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Last year he would never have missed it. That was a great chance for Ciro Immobile. And the fact that in the first half Lazio created chances, but the only shot, and wasn't even on target, was of Ciro Immobile at the end of the first half. That's very concerning, because again, you're not playing against Juventus that has a great defense. Sevilla defense is the weakness of that team, and we weren't able to exploit it. And the fact that Acerbi was the only one who forced the goalkeeper to make an unbelievable save, and even luck there's a little bit of bad luck, because the goalkeeper is not good at all. And against us, he was able to make an unbelievable save. But Ciro Immobile, we know he's not 100% fit, and we saw it Sunday against Genoa, we saw it again today. But it's not only Ciro Immobile playing. Caicedo didn't create a chance. He never shot on target today. Correa was invisible. Lulic missed 2 chances, and yes, you can say that in the first one it was a penalty, but I thought that he had to shot on target before getting kicked by Mercado there. He had plenty of time to shoot before, and he wasted. And same thing in the second half. So it's incredible because on one hand you have to think, well, Lazio created so many chances. Sevilla in the second half was really struggling. But on the other, you have to say we're in February. The team should be, confident, should be well playing with each other, etc. And still, we are not able to create and finalizing chances. And at the end of the day, football is a strange sport because it's not the best team that wins, it's the team that scores more. And today we saw it with Sevilla.
Doubly frustrating because it did seem like at the end of last year, Inzaghi had found the solution in changing his formation a bit, tweaking it to have this Christmas tree formation, or having Alberto playing in a deeper position and using him and Correa and Immobile all together. And that seemed to be a really promising solution because this kind of misfiring attack has been a problem throughout the entire season, which comes as a big surprise given that it was the one big strength of this team last season, obviously. And yeah, that did seem to be a solution that was working. And all of a sudden, we've kind of gone back to this bluntness again in front of goal, and it's a real concern. And obviously, the injuries have played a part, and we've not really had as many chances as we would have liked to have those three players all on the pitch at the same time, 100% fit. So I'm really hoping that once everybody's 100% again, that will be enough to turn this around, and that it's that simple. But I'm deeply concerned that it isn't that simple.
And it's incredible, Alistair. If you think about last year, Lazio playing so well and scoring so many goals, and we thought, if Lazio can't solve the problem of the defense, of not allowing too many goals, next year is going to be fun. Now, Lazio is allowing a little bit less goal, but is scoring not even the half the goal we scored last year. And if you think, they're pretty much the same player of last year. So what's happened?
Yeah, I just don't think they're being clinical enough, and not even being accurate enough. I mean, I just looked at the statistics from tonight's game, and Lazio had 13 shots on goal, and 3 of them have gone on target, and that's not an unusual kind of ratio to see this season. That it's not even that Lazio aren't scoring goals; it's that they're not even testing the goalkeeper a lot of the time, or putting pressure on the goalkeeper to make saves, which as we saw from Sevilla's opening goal tonight, can end up in you scoring a goal yourself. Even if you take a fairly routine shot on goal, if the goalkeeper's parry isn't well directed enough, it can become a chance in itself. And I just don't think that. I mean, Inzaghi kind of mentioned this in the press conference tonight and said that they basically need to be a bit more ruthless, a bit more clinical in attack. It's easy to say that. I don't know how easy it is to make a team suddenly do that, especially when they have been capable of it in the past and all of a sudden they're not anymore. I don't know if it's a mentality problem, if it's a confidence problem, or if it's a fitness problem. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a problem.
Do you think it can be a quality problem? Because Lazio attacked a lot, had the ball possession near the box, but often the last pass, it's a wrong pass. They try to dribble past the player and they lose the ball. Things that maybe last year wasn't happening. This year we are seeing it much more. I can remember a couple of times where Lazio was close to Sevilla box and maybe there was a player alone in the box and they tried to pass the ball, but they hit a Sevilla defender. So could it be that one of the options, the reason?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. I think there is a bit of quality lacking in the final third. There are a good number of technical players in this team who are capable of doing the right thing. Like if you get Milinkovic, Savic, or Luis Alberto into the right areas, they can deliver in those positions, those kind of tight areas. But then on the sides, I still think is a big issue. If you've got Adam Maricic and Senad Lulic as your two wing backs, I think we've probably spent enough time talking about them recently, but they do lack that quality. If you're talking about guys trying to make incisive, cutting, final balls into the box, whether it's them finishing chances, whether it's them getting crosses into the box, you need great accuracy and quality at this level to make those count. And I don't think either of those players really have it. For Lulic does have qualities, and the way he burst into the box for that big penalty shout in the first half does show one of those qualities, which is that he can make those powerful runs that are very hard to stop. But one thing he doesn't have is that technical ability, really. And I think that goes for several of the players in this team once you get below, I suppose, the first choice.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the wingers in this year. I think they are one of the reasons. I don't want to say the key reason why Lazio is not playing that well, because even last year we had Lulic and Maruzic, and even though last year Maruzic had a stint where he was playing quite well, this year it's not like that. But I think even the reason is the lack of form of Luis Alberto, Milinkovic Savic, and Ciro Immobile throughout the season. That's one of the reasons why Lazio was scoring less than last year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this is the whole Vice Immobile argument again, though, isn't it? Is that if we had another alternative who's a genuine goal scoring who could come into the team at this point, then this is a perfect chance for them. But instead we've got Caicedo, and he's not going to be that guy. So, I mean, I don't want to get back into that again because I think we've done it enough. But I think that is, this whole thing really, everything that's happened in the last few weeks, the injury crisis, the dip in form that's come with it, the clear lack of quality once that these injuries come in, all of this just comes together to show Lotito and Tare that they haven't built a team that's capable of fulfilling the objectives they've set. This isn't a squad that can justifiably be expected to be finishing the top four and going far in two other competitions. I think it can do one of those things, but it can't do all of them. There's just not enough in there. And that that's not simply in a defence of Inzaghi, because I know he's had a lot of criticism tonight, and I think some of it's justified, and I think there are various things that he could have done differently this season as well. But at the same time, I do think that at the end of the day, there's just not enough quality in the squad to really expect to achieve all those things.
I thought, Alistair, I don't know if looking the match you had the same impression that Sevilla was pushing a lot on the right side of Lazio, because on that side we had Patrick and Maruzic, and it was probably the weakest spot for Lazio, and they were attacking there a lot and creating all the problems there. I was surprised. Honestly, I was expecting Romulo to play instead of Maruzic. That was my biggest surprise, seeing the starting 11. And in a certain way, I was right, because when Romulo came in, Lazio started playing much better. So, yeah, I hope that after today, Maruzic is not going to play anymore. But I said it already last time, so, and he's keep starting. So I'm not convinced it's going to happen anymore. But yeah, the right side of Lazio today was probably the weakness spot of this team, and shows you the problem we're having.
Yeah, and this is one of the criticisms I would have of Inzaghi tonight, is that this is something I talked about in length after the first leg when we had our podcast after that. I remember saying that that was such an obvious area they were targeting in the first leg, because there was this huge gap between Bastos and Maricic on the right-hand side all the time. Maricic pushing really high up, Bastos not maintaining a decent distance to him, or them not really communicating with each other. And it was Escudero who was causing all these problems in on the left. And when he got injured, quite relieved, because I thought he was a really threatening player last time we played them. But I thought, yeah, I was stunned by that it was like you say, not only the same Marisic being picked again instead of Romulo, but also the same weakness, I suppose, in that area of the pitch, because they've clearly done their homework, but I don't know if Inzaghi's necessarily done his, because it was absolutely screaming out to me in the first leg as being an issue.
Yes, and as you were saying, they were very good to exploit that. And I agree with you. When Escudero came out, I said, wow, this is the first time that a team against Lazio is losing a player in the beginning of the match. But the manager putting promise that it's a sort of left wing. So change in a very attacking mind team, which could have been an advantage for Lazio, because that means that Lazio could have pushed there, but at the same time a problem, because already that's the weak spot for Lazio, and having someone push more could, embarrass Marzuc and Patrick more than they did.
Yeah, can we just address the elephant in the room and talk about the back four question before it's going to happen sooner or later? And I've already seen that Rami Algendi has asked us a question about it, saying, we played the entire second half with four at the back and we look very dangerous going forward. Do you agree? And then he goes on, it happened a lot of times this season when we go into panic mode, Inzaghi shifts into a back four, but he never experiments with it from the beginning. Why? What do you think?
Well, I think it worked today, but it even worked because at the beginning we were one man up, so we were able to push. And I think at this point, maybe we should try and play with a four-man defense. I think against Milan, there are not other options, because let's not forget that Radu cannot play, and at the moment Acerbi is the only central defender available, so I think that's the only option available for now, for the moment, for this team. I know that they're trying to see if Wallace will be fit for that match, but at this point I would try and change. The biggest problem I have with the 4-3-3 is that the three central midfielder cannot be Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic, because otherwise there's no balance at all. And probably this is the reason why Simone Inzaghi doesn't play like that. But I would give it a go, especially seeing the situation now. There's nothing to lose. So 4-3-3, Pedro Neto on one side and Correa on the other.
I'll be astonished if that happens. I'm not saying
that Pedro Neto starts or 4-3-3.
Both, both those things. I mean, I know what you mean. I think that for this to happen, because Inzaghi is so cautious about straying away from his favourite formation, we know that. So to stand a chance of us getting to see four at the back formation of any sort, we were always going to need something like this to happen, where there's an injury crisis that means it's necessary. And to be honest, I think that surely he's seen enough from Patrick as well to know that that's, is four at the back going to be any more damaging than playing a back three with Patrick in it? I'd be surprised. So, I would like to see it. It's something as well that we tried against Milan in the game in Rome in the second half, as far as I remember. And to good effect. I mean, that was a game that Lazio really should have won. Another kind of story of missed chances that match, and Correa eventually equalising the last minute. But I think it worked pretty well then, and I think that if Lazio are gonna try and find the answer, or find a way of at least freshening this up and waking up, then that would be something worth experimenting with. And the Coppa Italia is a serious objective. I think it has to be, but it's a two-legged game. So if he tries it in the first half and it's a complete disaster, he does still have 3 more halves to go, so he does have a little bit. He is, like I say, quite cautious, so he does have a bit more time to kind of consider what to do about it. So, yeah, hope.
One thing important that probably a lot of us have forgotten: when Simone Inzaghi was the manager of the youth team, not only the Primavera but even the Allievi, etc., he always played with the 4-3-3. So when we say that it's his tactic, etc., he's born with the 4-3-3. I still think that that's his favorite tactic. So I don't know why he's sticking like that with the 3-5-2. Maybe because he thinks he doesn't have wingers to play with a 4-3-3. But that's how he grew up as a manager. So I don't understand why he never come back to that, or all in a panic mode like today. I still think that probably now, with Badel playing like that, with Cataldi, I thought Cataldi was probably the best player on the pitch for Lazio today. He has a lot of midfielder that can play in those 3 central there. Probably what is missing are the wingers, but you have Pedro Neto and you can try Correa there. Even today, I thought Correa was terrible. Even today, I didn't like him at all. But maybe in the 4-3-3 it's different.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose his concern with the 4-3-3 is just that he doesn't have that many natural wide players in this squad, though. That's the thing. Obviously, Neto is an option, but I mean, we have to remember that he's made 2 substitute appearances, so I think it would be unfair to expect too much of him. I would like to see him, but beyond Neto, you've only really got Correa, who's a natural wide player. I mean, you can push Lulic or Marisic up into those positions. They have played there before, but it's not exactly Champions League material. And
no, but Lulic,
when Luis Alberto first played, he was terrible in that position in his first season. So,
but Lulic,
sorry,
no, sorry, I tried to interrupt you. Unfortunately, Lulic started with Lazio there, so it's not that he never played, etc. So, if you don't want to.
He was a lot more explosive. He was a lot younger then. It's a different time of his career, and he's not the player he used to be. I don't think that that's going to be a game changer for Lazio's pushing Lulic up to the left wing position.
But he has more experience, and he has to run less there than where he's playing now. So, he can save some energy and use his experience to be more efficient, I would say. And the other thing is, we saw Caicedo. Even today, he didn't do pretty much nothing. I'm not saying he didn't fight, etc. But at the end of the day, Lazio didn't score. And one of the reasons they didn't score is because Caicedo didn't create and didn't have any chances.
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem with Caicedo is at his worst, he's basically you're basically down to 10 men. I mean, he is that inefficient sometimes when he's at his worst. As someone I wanted to ask you about, though, was Milinkovic-Savic, because I've seen different things being said about him tonight, because obviously the replay was quite ugly for him for the first goal, because it was his loose pass that began Sevilla's attack for that goal. But then that was also halfway up the pitch, so you would have thought that Lazio would still have enough time to organise themselves to defend that attack. But obviously he was just back from injury, and it was a bit of a surprise in the first place to see him going straight into the starting lineup. So what did you think of his performance, how he looked?
I was surprised to see him starting. I thought he would have played, but probably in the second half. Instead, seeing him starting, it's surprising, but at the same time very positive. I thought he played well. Inzaghi said after the match that the deal was that him and Immobile wouldn't play full match, but Ciro had to play all 90 minutes. I thought Milinkovic-Savic played well. You can see that he's improving. Even before the injury, he was playing well, so it's good to see that he didn't lose his form. Talking about the goal, yes, he made a mistake, and now I'm probably will have to fight with Patrick Bowman again, which I don't like. But I thought that there were like 3 players chasing the Sevilla player, and probably Badel was the closest one. He had plenty of space. Bring him down, give them a free kick. it's much better than allowing him to enter the box and shoot on target. He had to do half the field, so bring him down at half field and take a yellow card if you want, but it's better a yellow card than a goal. Instead, they pretty much follow him without even tackling, and there were 3 Lazio players there. I remember Badal because I thought he was the closest, but yeah, that was really disappointing and surprising. It looked like they were, don't want to say surprised, but they didn't think about, okay, what do we do? How do we stop him? They just chase him, hoping that he would, crush against Acerbi. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that whole goal was just an example of, the kind of luck that Lazio aren't getting. Not luck because it was just poor from Lazio in many ways, that goal, but there was the slack pass from Milinkovic-Savic, but then, like you say, the midfield runner is not exactly helping him out afterwards. Then you've got Patrick, who plays the goalscorer on the side. He's not in line with Radu and Acerbi, so that's the reason the goal's not ruled out for offside. And then you've got Strakosha, to be honest, making a fairly poor save. I mean, I would expect from a goalkeeper of his ability that he's able to actually push that away from danger more. I mean, it's something you always hear about goalkeepers, but he's parried it straight into a dangerous position, and if he got it wider, he would have at the very least given the Sevilla player a harder angle to finish from, and at best given himself enough time to get back on his feet. So I think there were just mistakes throughout the team with that goal, to be honest, and it goes to show that it takes more than one mistake a lot of the time to concede goals. It's not always as simple as being able to blame one player for every goal that's conceded. So yeah, that was a big disappointment.
Yeah, I agree. It was a series of mistakes, and it happened often to Lazio because even the 2 goals Genoa scored last Sunday, I blame Caicedo, but there are other players who didn't do their part in that goals, and yeah, it's starting to get, every match there's something like that with Lazio. Well, you don't see the same thing with other teams, Roma won against Bologna struggling. Bologna deserved to win, but Roma was more focused. More when they had the chance, they striked. Lazio is exactly the opposite. They're not able to finish a match, and in football, if you don't finish a match, if you don't score the second goal when you're up 1, then you give always a chance to the other team to strike back, and it's something you have to avoid. And Lazio is simply not able now to do it.
Yeah, I felt for Bologna. I was working at that game, and I did feel sorry for them because it did just remind me of watching Lazio. I mean, it was incredible the number of chances they managed to create without scoring, and in all sorts of different ways. Good saves from the goalkeeper, hitting the crossbar. I mean, they tried almost everything. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's what Lazio managed to do to get through these weeks of underperforming earlier in the season. Lazio still weren't playing well, but were managing to get narrow wins against teams lower down the table, which we've just managed to do as well, it has to be said, against Frosinone and Empoli. But I think we have to find that side of things again, because I think if you can keep things defensively well organised, then you'll always give yourself a chance. And the problem has been recently that it's been not just failing to take these chances, but it's also been that goals have been conceded very sloppily as well. And if you put those two things together, it's going to be very hard to get a result, and it's going to be even harder against the teams we're just about to face. I mean, losing 2 games in a row to Genoa and Sevilla isn't exactly ideal preparation for what is arguably the most important week of the season, which is coming up.
Yeah, in the last 8 matches, Lazio have lost 5. and the only two win we had in the 90 minutes was against Frosinone and Empoli. This is concerning. This is really concerning. It's true we lost against Juventus and Napoli, but still, 8 matches and we lost the last 3. So it's not a very positive moment. And I wanted to ask you, what do you thought about Correa today? Because I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all against Genoa. So I want to know if I'm the only one seeing him playing that bad, or it's a general feeling.
No, yeah, you're not. It's I said the same thing last week. We talked about this, and I've said I've been disappointed with him for a while now. He's failed to deliver, I think, in quite regularly. I mean, for so long he was the guy who you'd bring off the bench to provide a bit of magic, and then everybody, quite rightly, was calling for him to be included from the start more regularly. But his impact from the start of games has really not been great throughout the season. I still think he deserves to be in the lineup, but I think he does play a lot better when he's got others around him, like Alberto, Immobile, Milinkovic, who he can kind of play off. And he doesn't seem to respond too well to the pressure of being the guy to make things happen. And the problem is, I said after the first leg, that I just don't think this Correa Caicedo tandem works.
No.
And there was nothing to change my mind tonight. I know he was playing up there with Immobile as well, but I just don't really see anything happening there.
No. Alexander Mikkelsen, a lot of ifs. If Lulic has scored or got a penalty, if Acerbi and Immobile scored on the pretty big chances, but Sevilla scored on their chances. Very unsatisfied once again to see us almost play the perfect game, but with no result. We need a mental coach. Thoughts, Alistair?
I don't know if we need a mental coach. I don't see the harm in it. If there's a concern from Inzaghi and his staff that it's something that the players benefit from, then why not? I mean, it's not. There's almost nothing to lose from giving that kind of support to players. But I'm not sure that that's the answer. I think the point he makes is exactly right. There's so many ifs. I mean, there have been for a while now where Lazio, like he says, have been quite close to playing the perfect game, but a few minor things going against us in defence and a few minor things not happening for us in attack, and that's enough to lose a match instead of winning it. And it was the same against Genoa as well. It was the same in the first leg. I don't know if a mental coach is going to be the answer to that problem, because I think it's something that they need to kind of fix on the training ground above all, to be honest. But like I say, I don't see any harm in introducing one if they feel like one would be helpful.
I think it's not a mental problem. I think, as we were saying before, it's more a quality problem. We're making far too many mistakes. Are we making mistakes because mentally they're not focused? I don't think so. So maybe a mental coach can help the team, but I don't think it's the mental coach the problem is, the quality probably. Our quality players are not playing as well as they should, and the other players are not able to do it. You can give a mental coach to Patrick, but he's not going to become Maldini. I tell you that.
Nah.
Not even close. Talking about Patrick, did you see what happened today when he was subbed?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually see this at the time, but I did. I have read about it since. But so why don't you explain if you've actually seen the footage?
Well, basically he wasn't happy of the substitution, and he ran in the locker room instead of giving high five to all the bench and stay on the bench. And Inzaghi and Farri went down and chased him because obviously they didn't like what Patrick did. Now, in the press conference, Inzaghi said that every player has to stay in the bench if they don't have nothing urgent, and said that Patrick had to put ice on his knee, so that's why he went in the locker. I'm not sure about that. I thought that was just an excuse.
Yeah. You see players sitting on the bench with ice packs on their knee all the time. It's not something you have to go to the dressing room for. Yeah, I mean, I really don't like that. If that is what's happened and he's stormed off because of his substitution, I mean, who the hell does he think he is? This is Patrick we're talking about. I mean, if it was Immobile, Milinkovic, Savic, if it's one of the star players who's being pulled off when they're fully fit and they feel like they can make a difference, at least they've got a right to not feel too happy about it. We're talking about Patrick here. I mean, he should be happy to be in the lineup in the first place. It's bizarre, but I'm glad to see Inzaghi laying down a marker though and saying I'm not going to accept this kind of petulant behaviour, because it does sound like that is exactly what happened. But like you say, it does also sound like something they're trying to kind of cover it up a bit.
Yeah, which would make sense, especially knowing Inzaghi's style of manager. He's not going out and blame the players. Maybe Patrick won't play anymore, but we will find out only because simply Patrick doesn't show up in the starting 11 anymore, which is something we all hope, right? After this other performance, because again, he got subbed because Inzaghi switched to a 4-3-3 and he had to choose basically between him or Lulic. Obviously, Lulic give you more solution than Patrick, so it makes sense to take off Patrick, even because, well, even Lulic wasn't playing great, but still he created some chances. He was doing things while Patrick didn't. So, I mean, he could understand why he'd been subbed. So,
yeah, and speaking of Lulic, is a good example of that. Inzaghi, I think, does deserve credit for being being pretty good at dealing with these things and nipping them in the bud. Any kind of dressing room unrest or signs of players, public signs of a division in the ranks. I mean, when Lulic was brought off, I think it was against Bologna last season, and Lulic wasn't happy about it, and Inzaghi managed to basically get that whole thing sorted by the time the press conference was finished. And I think he's been really good at keeping this squad unified the whole time. There's been so many ups and downs in the last kind of couple of seasons, and one of the problems we've never really had is huge dressing room rifts. And if you look at, for example, obviously what's happening at Inter with Icardi right now, but these kind of things happen all the time, and I think Inzaghi has dealt with problems pretty well when they've come up.
Especially because this type of problems don't die during the podcast, please. This problem happen very often in Rome, and so you have to give extra credit to Inzaghi, because in the 3 years he have been here, nothing huge happened. And even with Keita, I think everybody remember the situation. He's been pretty good even there. Well, we remember Raya had problems, Petkovic, every manager, Pioli had problems with players. Every manager that managed Lazio had problem. Inzaghi is the only one who didn't have nothing. And after 3 years, it's difficult. Even Di Francesco on the other side had problems with players. So a lot of people that criticize Inzaghi should remember even this.
Yeah, and you also don't really hear players who leave Lazio, taking a shot at Inzaghi afterwards, which is another thing that sometimes happens.
Yeah, especially someone like Felipe Anderson could have done it, seeing that he didn't play that match last year, but still he didn't say nothing wrong against Inzaghi. So, but we still want to see more points, more wins.
Yeah, of course. I think just moving back to the game quickly, we're going to have to, having looked at a few of our Twitter comments, I'm going to have to go talk about your favourite subject, which is a referee. Because Anthony Taylor, English ref tonight, and he sent off Adam Maricic, obviously, in the second half. Don't think anyone was very happy about that. There was also the Senad Lulic penalty claim, so that's been such a big talking point after this game. I'm surprised we've not really talked about it yet.
I've been very good.
Anyway, I'll read out a couple of comments we've had. Matt Gandini says the red card may be harsh, but there's no need for that elbow or to take any risks at that moment. It says more about why we need to get rid of Maricic. He doesn't contribute offensively at all, and now he ruined the game for us when it started to look like we had a chance. Greek Stav says, given how/for what the Sevilla player was sent off by Anthony Taylor, the expulsion of Maricic was consistent. Anthony Taylor is truly a terrible referee, albeit a consistently terrible referee. I don't think we want to launch into another Maricic bashing session because we've done quite a lot of that, but yeah, what do you want to talk about the Maricic red card first?
Not the penalty.
Do the red card first, and then
I thought that, as Inzaghi said, that was too harsh. I thought it wasn't a red card, but on the same side, why Maruzic had to keep that elbow so high? You didn't have to. So you give an excuse to a ref to give you the red card. It was never a red card. Don't get me wrong, but still, it's a silly mistake from Maruzic, and it's not the first time. Now, I don't recall when he was sent off, but again, it was a stupid red card he got. I think against Kiev, or could it be he got two matches or something like that? I know he said something wrong to the ref, I think. But yeah, I didn't think it was a red card. But again, Maruzic, you're stupid to do something like that. You should avoid that thing and maybe get a yellow card at maximum, but not a red one.
Yeah, I immediately thought it was a yellow card. Maybe not even that, because it's a simple blocking off of a player. And I understand he's raised his arm a bit, but I didn't think it was an elbow. An intentional elbow, definitely not. And I think it, as far as I understand, it needs to be in order to actually give him a direct red card. And yeah, I understand the argument that he shouldn't have given them any reason, but I still think that doesn't mean it is a red card. That's not a defence for the decision the referees made. And I do actually disagree with Greek Stav on Taylor being consistent, because I think that a lot of the decisions in that game he was being very lenient with. There are a number of fouls, particularly in the midfield area, that weren't blown up, that I immediately kind of assumed would be, because in Serie A I suppose they would be. And he was a lot more willing to let things go. And I quite like that in a referee. If somebody's made contact with the player, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always a foul. But the thing is, if you're going to say that those kind of fouls are okay, then you can't regard what Maricic has done as being a direct red card. That was what frustrated me about it the most. And obviously the timing of it, it's had a drastic effect on Lazio's match, because at the time we needed 2 goals. We were completely on the front foot and had a man advantage. And then all of a sudden it's levelled up and there's absolutely no way back. So, yeah, very frustrating decision. Anyway, what about the penalty?
I thought, and I believe ref thinks a lot about this, that he was trying a way to put things back. After he sent a player off from Sevilla, he felt he had to do equalize things and do the same for Lazio. So when Maruzic had that bad tackle, he said, well, this is the perfect time to put things together, to compensate, which I thought was completely wrong. Talking about the penalty, I think I said it before. For me, it was always a penalty. But Lulic had the chance to shoot on target before and avoid the tackle. But that was clearly the penalty. And yeah, there is no VAR in the Europe League, but still, you have the ref on the lines. That I don't understand how it can be possible that they didn't see it.
Yeah. I think that Lulic's motion didn't help him, if that means anything. It did look like he was kind of going to the ground already, but there was definitely a touch, a stamp on his foot. There was definitely contact there. I just think the fact that he was kind of already, he seemed to have kind of lost control of the ball a bit, which does sound like Senad Lulic, to be fair. I don't think that really helped him. But you wonder where it would have ended up if there was VAR to look at.
I don't know. For me, it was clear penalty. But again, he had the chance to score before, and didn't take them. So,
yeah. Well, story of the night, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, I would say absolutely. And again, another team would have a penalty. I'm sure about that, but not Lazio. And the other thing is, Franco Vasquez should have been sent off earlier if it wasn't against Lazio. I thought he did the other couple of yellow card tackles and the ref ignored them. So, I thought it was strange.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's done now. The thing is, what I said at full time was that I think the referee was bad and his decisions were bad tonight. But at the end, Sevilla deserved to go through. I don't think we can really argue with that too much. And to his credit, Inzaghi didn't really argue with that either. He said, if you don't score goals, you don't deserve to go through. And it's pretty much that simple. So the goals may have come, things may have gone differently without these decisions, but I think the lesson is more that you want to put yourself in a position where these decisions don't really matter so much, and Lazio never really managed to do that, never really got on top of this tie in the first place, simply because they were too sloppy at the back and not clinical enough in attack. It's pretty much that simple, I think.
And Alistair, as I said at the beginning, we talk about Sevilla, not Juventus defense. This was a terrible defense. We should have scored. The fact that in 180 minutes we didn't score once against this defense, it's concerning. It's terrible. It's scary. Especially because, yes, we didn't have Ciro Immobile and Milinkovic Savic on the first leg, but here we had them, and still we didn't score.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I think that Immobile still doesn't look quite right to me. Still doesn't look fit enough. But I mean, that you'd still expect more from him, even if he's not quite right. And yeah, I think Correa needs to up his game a lot. It's looking like hopefully Alberto will be back in time for the Milan game, so I think that'll be a huge boost if anything, just so we can get those three back on the pitch together at the same time, because like I was saying earlier, I think that we looked to be onto something when we had that connection going on, but it's obviously been a while since that's as far as I remember, it feels like it's been a while since that's been allowed to happen for 90 minutes, so yeah, we'll see.
Shall we bring a little bit of good news to end this podcast? Well, the surprising news is that Parolo was on the bench today. He trained with the team yesterday. Even Luis Alberto, that they were saying 40 days out, was training yesterday. And there's chances that he could be back for the Milan match, which is astonishing, because everybody got it wrong, because a lot of website, etc. said 40 days off. Oh, it's a miracle. I don't know how to put it. But yeah, Parolo and Luis Alberto should be back. Even Milinkovic-Savic was considered off for this match and he played. So we have to say that luckily it looks like we're getting a lot of players back. Unfortunately, no big news for the defenders. Probably you're going to get Wallace back for the match against Milan, which I don't know if it's... Well, no, better than Patrick. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we're in trouble when we're absolutely desperate for either Bastos or Wallace to return from injury. Something's gone wrong at that stage. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like the injuries have been shorter than expected. I mean, I remember reading at the time that Milinkovic was going to be out for about 3 weeks, and he seems to have come back a lot faster than expected as well. So I don't know if that's because of a misdiagnosis at the start or because he's just made a quicker recovery time. But either way, it's definitely much needed at this point, given the sheer numbers of injuries. It's definitely needed. So, yeah, hopefully we can soon get our squad back and then they'll have absolutely no excuse for not playing well.
Yes, even because Alistair, okay, the first goal of the season is gone. But Tuesday there's another one. And as you were saying, probably it's the most important because it's the more achievable. And then there is a derby. So these coming weeks are key for the season for Lazio. 2 wins there would be amazing. But 2 defeat would mean game over pretty much. So we need all the players and we need them focused. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of a lesson about how quickly things can turn, isn't it? Because if we win both those games, I mean, just imagine everything suddenly looks rosy again. You've got the Champions League race is going to be right back on, even if we obviously still need to catch up with Milan. And you have one foot in a Coppa Italia final against either Fiorentina or Atalanta. So, yeah, I mean, it's a huge week. I'm already feeling quite nervous about the derby, to be honest. Trying not to think about it, but it's properly season-defining stuff. So it is important that now more than ever they managed to turn around. But before we finish, you have a stat I've dug up from Lazio Page, your friends, which is not a nice one to end on. So I might want to say something cheerful again after this. But he says this is the first time in Lazio's history that they've lost 4 consecutive European games in one season. There had been 3 different European campaigns. Lazio had lost 3 games in a row, but this is the first time there's been 4. So there you go. It's a nice cheery note.
Yeah, now I'm depressed.
Yeah, well, two of those didn't count, did they? Because we were already through the group, so think of it that way. No, an easier way to think about it.
Yep, the other 2 counted though. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up here with a sad note. I think makes sense. Again, Alistair, thank you very much. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and we're on Spotify, Spreaker, and iTunes. Please subscribe to our podcast and rate and review if you might. Thank you, Alistair. Good night, and we're going to talk not this weekend because Lazio's not playing this weekend. Remember, it's Tuesday. Lazio-Milan, Coppa Italia. Bye, everybody.
Come on, you eagles, there's no time to fear. Up there's an angel watching